Hello, welcome back, dear traders. Let's discuss ongoing trends on Wall Street and try to predict its further dynamics. The key stock indexes perked up on Friday. They are trading moderately higher today. However, we can hardly define market sentiment as optimistic. Let's find out what factors are denting market sentiment. Despite minor losses on Friday, the major stock indexes closed the last week with gains. The Dow Jones added 0.4%, the Nasdaq closed 0.3% up, and the S&P 500 edged up 15 points or 0.3% to close at 4,551 points. The index is expected to trade in the corridor between 4,515 and 4,595 points. The US nonfarm payrolls released on Friday did not cause alarm and even surpassed expectations for some indicators. At the same time, traders were disappointed by the construction spending and the manufacturing PMI. And in this context, yields of US Treasuries went up. However, the stock market gave a cautious response to the fresh metrics. Today, investors are again riveted to the geopolitical conflict. It's hard to give an impartial assessment of the hostilities in Ukraine because the situation is changing rapidly. Despite the fact that the sides do not give up the idea of a diplomatic solution and even have fixed new online talks for Monday, the standoff has been escalating. Positive outcome of the talks in Turkey and withdrawal of Russian troops from some Ukrainian areas are overshadowed by the news from Baku and European that caused angry public feedback. The US and the EU aim to impose new sanctions against Russia in the coming days. The West is serious about an oil embargo and personal sanctions against the Russian elite. The Western leaders have no common stance, so investors are not able to predict consequences of a new package. Under such jitters, Wall Street has a 50-50 chance of extending growth or a sharp fall. The US dollar index has been growing for 2 sessions straight. Now its index is trading at about 98.50. Analysts are betting on the greenback's trends. The expected corridor for the index is defined between 98.30 and 98.90. The US dollar is taking advantage of the geopolitical tensions and upbeat macroeconomic data that sustain the bullish outlook for the greenback. Strong employment and soaring inflation assure investors of another rate hike at the Fed's nearest policy meeting. Presidents of Federal Reserve Banks of New York and San Francisco, John Williams and Mary Daly, came up with the hawkish remarks recently. They delivered a message that rising inflation and the healthy labor market are widely argument for a rate hike of 50 basis points in May and later on. So analysts are bullish on the US dollar. On Wednesday, traders are anticipating the Fed's minutes will shed light on the further policy moves. The USD CAD pays trading at 1.2490. The forecast for the currency pays the same trading corridor between 1.24 and 1.26. The loonie is getting weaker due to falling oil prices in the light of the news. The United Arab Emirates welcomed the truce that would terminate military clashes on the border between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. The other news to push oil prices down is that the White House releases U.S. national strategic oil reserves to struggle with the mounting energy prices. In response, yields of U.S. and Canadian government bonds have changed in favor of the U.S. Treasuries. Both the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada are determined to raise interest rates. The Canadian regulator is widely expected to increase the target overnight rate again on April 13, and the fundamentals in the USD CAD pair are roughly in equilibrium now. So analysts foresee minor price fluctuations for the currency pair. Following a decline on April 1st, Bitcoin is again trading higher. The digital token managed to overcome the important high of $45,200, and today it's trading above $46,000. The technical picture suggests consolidation. It's too early to speak about a new bullish wave. Bitcoin has been locked inside a trading range between $45,500 and $48,500 for at least the 2 nearest days. To sum up, American markets are likely to trade mixed this week, keeping on price gyrations. The geopolitical tensions still create uncertainty and pose high risks. So, traders should exercise caution when opening US positions. Follow developments in financial markets on InstaForex TV channel, and see you tomorrow.